Hello Internet, welcome to Game Crossovers, the show that will stop parodying MatPat right now since I don't want to be known as the Game Crossovers guy. This concept of combining two popular franchises is definitely not my idea. Many people thought of this before and there are probably some artworks in this. But in this video I want to actually think about how the story would go, how the lore would work, who'd be the main characters, you know, get a bit more specific about this AU thingy, if you wanna call it that. Keep in mind, while I think I have a good general understanding of both the FNAF and Bendy lore, I'm not a theorist myself, and I may make some small mistakes. Let's get into it. First of all, the two main companies in the games. Most of the events in FNAF happen around the Freddy Fazbear's pizza restaurants and their owners, William Afton and Henry Emily. Funnily enough, the founders of the animation studio in Bendy are Joey Drew and Henry Stein. So, before we get into how the two companies would interact, I'd like to express an idea regarding the Henrys. Both of them are more creative and talented than their co-workers, and both of them end up leaving them only to then return to finally make things right. And well, one of them gets stuck in a loop and the other faces the always come back rule. So why don't we just combine them into one character in this AU? That would give us a connection between the two companies without ruining much in the continuities. Okay, that does change some major plot points a bit, but hey, it's more creative than having two almost identical characters on different fronts. So now that we have a connection between the franchises, what do we do with it? Do they fuse? Do they make collaborations? I definitely think having Joey Drew Studios make the Fazbear and Friends cartoons is a neat idea. We definitely need Joey and William to meet each other through Henry. And there are two ways this can go further. They either become good friends because of their similarities, or they become competitors. While the former would be pretty cool, I think them getting very competitive would suit their canon counterparts more. So, now I wanted to talk about the character's motivation. And this might be one of the more difficult parts of the story to change, simply because we don't really know what their canon motivation is for sure. We could say that William's motivation for becoming a murderer is crying child's death, but will the bite even happen in this universe? Well, yeah, here we go with the timeline problems. The main events of the FNAF timeline happen from the 80s to 2035, while the first Bendy game takes place in 1963. Even Dark Revival is set in 1973. I think the best way to deal with this problem is just shift the FNAF timeline backwards. I guess Henry and William are just more innovative in this timeline. Back to the story. When writing this, I thought that Joey and William both being the main villains isn't exactly possible. The reason for that is just like with the Henrys, William's and Joey's actions share a very similar pattern. William kills kids to get remnant and examine it to presumably resurrect his son, while Joey tricks many of his former employees into coming back to the studio to kill them and use their souls in his ink creatures, and eventually to create himself a daughter. Honestly, I've never thought of just how many parallels are there between these game stories. Anyway, the reason why I'm talking about all this is because in this AU of mine, Joey is not going to be evil. While making this, I needed to get rid of one of the two main antagonists. I think having William as the villain makes much more sense, since this way we can keep some of the main FNAF events like the Bite of 83 while not breaking the Bendy timeline completely. One of my ideas for William as the main antagonist, and the one I decided to stick to, is him being the creator of the ink machine instead of Thomas. This way we can have him create both animatronics and ink creatures, and my favorite, combinations of the two. So originally Joey kinda goes crazy after discovering what his machine can do, so here's going to be William, and Joey will be one of the victims, like Henry and Susie, aka Alice Angel. All this machine talk made me think about what the main plot device would be. In FNAF, it's Remnant. In Bendy, weird ink made by the machine. And yep, you guessed it, I wanna combine those two. But how? You see, Remnant is literally molten metal with souls in it. And the special ink is well, magical ink that creates creatures without souls. That's why Joey needed the employees. I've had two ideas on this. The first one is that William would have to drown people in ink so it would become remnant ink or something. The reason I want the ink to be the alternative for remnant is because I thought of this really cool idea where Am I calling William Willem again? Where William would need to paint the animatronics with this ink for them to come alive, instead of just building them using remnant like with the fun time. Imagine how cool the designs would be with that. The second one is that he would need to pour the blood from his victims into the ink to make the magical ink. That could lead to some really cool references in the actual ink realm, like writings on walls saying something like, "The ink is blood." Both versions sound very brutal, to be honest, and not the best thought out, but hey, drowning in ink already happened in Bendy, but that ink was already corrupted. I honestly don't know what option I want to go with, because both have some potential, but maybe we should make a third option that would be a bit more thought out than this. Although the second option allows for an easier way for William to discover the magic ink when cutting himself accidentally or something. Well, we need a location where the main game events are going to happen. So, wouldn't it be cool if Fazbear Entertainment did a collaboration with Joey Drew Studios to make an attraction with both the Fazbear gang and Bendy characters? The Fazbend attraction! Yeah, I probably need to work on the name. Now, I wanted to make the animatronics here the remnant painted ones, but then we need to start thinking about William's downfall timeline and how he's going to discover the remning. Names are difficult. By the time this attraction opens, we need William to have already killed Charlie and the 5 missing children, so we can have him discover ink. That means the missing children incident would probably happen in the normal Freddy's location. But then how would William discover the ink remnant thing? I got it. He will hide the bodies in the suits like in the original. Then the suits will start to walk and he'll notice it and he will tear them apart like again in the original story, though probably he will like throw their parts into the ink. Although if it's the original location he can't really do that. So I guess he brings the animatronics to the new location with Bendy, and there they start to walk and he tears them apart and puts the parts into the ink. My original idea here was that instead of ghosts like in the original story and cutscene and minigames, ink ghosts I guess would appear and scare the heck out of him, and he would jump into the ink pool of the ink machine, well, while running from them. Anyway, I'll just say it now. William will be the ink demon in this thing, and I'm not changing that. I think it's a pretty cool idea, because you remember the old Joey is Bendy theories? I think just sorta making it true for my story is pretty cool. Yeah, that escalated quickly. You're probably a bit overwhelmed by now with this crazy timeline, if we can even call it that I'm telling. And who am I kidding? I myself am not sure what I'm doing right now. Who would have known that making an AU of some of the most confusing video game storylines would be so difficult? This is why I need your feedback. This video is basically the premise, lore, and some of the most important events of the story. And if you like those, you can tell me your ideas on it. Maybe something that you disagree with me. Maybe some concept arts or fan arts, I guess, on my Discord server. Wait, I've never told you about the Discord server, have I? Well, now you know. If you want to know me better, make fan art which will look better than the official character, or help me out with this AU, you're welcome to join. And you've probably realized by now this video is a 2-parter, maybe even 3 if I have the motivation. I'll hopefully gather some ideas from Discord and think of my own new ideas, make an actual timeline, and then the second part will come out, probably in a few months. As for this video, I kinda wanted to make it a bit longer, but I'm afraid I just won't be able to, since I want to upload it this week. That's why the final part of this video is starting right now. Let's talk about the characters I haven't talked about or haven't talked about enough. Henry is pretty much going to be a combination of the 2 Henrys. He'll have a daughter who he will lose, but this time Joey is going to be around to help him with his loss. Joey is actually kinda the Joey he wanted to be in in the original game here. Very energetic, optimistic, ambitious, but not crazy and tyrannical. Although he'll probably still have some disagreements with William. Honestly, I feel like if this was an actual game, it would be a co-op game. Instead of just Henry in the Ink Realm, Henry and Joey would be there together. And yeah, I don't think we can somehow put Audrey in this. There's just no reason for her to exist. Although, if William tried to resurrect the crying child with ink, he could become a replacement for her, but I'm not sure about that idea. Alright, Joey is on the business side, Henry helps with the creative stuff, both get mysteriously re-invited only to get trapped in the Ink Realm. What about their kids? I decided to keep the puppet story mostly intact. Michael, I imagine, would probably start helping with the drawing eventually, considering his skills in the logbook. If not by his will, William would just send him to work as a punishment. That means that Mike also ends up in the Ink Realm. Or he ends up there even sooner, after trying to help Buddy and Dot from the Bendy books to stop what's going on. That's also an idea I had. The only character I still haven't mentioned from the three families is Elizabeth, and I'll be honest, I have no idea where to put her. I mean, there's also Mrs. Afton and Henry's wife, but they don't serve major roles in the original games, or do they? Although I think Mrs. Afton could replace Susie as the voice for Alice. What do you think of that? And the final plot point that I thought of is that I want Cassidy to be Bendy. Yes, I know, I said William is Bendy, but I said William is the Ink Demon, and Cassidy is going to be the small Bendy. Yeah, see, I took the thumbnail literally. It's not just an excuse to put Golden Freddy in the thumbnail. It might be an excuse to put Golden Freddy in the thumb, but imagine how cool it would be if the big Bendy and the small Bendy were rivals. Anyway, let's wrap this up, please. Yeah, I'm not sure how interesting this video is for you, so please give me your feedback. I'd be very thankful. This is a very big and not very thought out at the moment experiment. Obviously, the best of your ideas will be featured in the next video with credit, and if you're really interested, don't forget to comment, maybe join the Discord server and subscribe. I'm not planning to focus my channel around this AU thingy for now, but there's a lot of cool FNAF content planned for the future. Bye!